Lots of crazy talk going around the Dirty Birds right now in the ATL. Welcome in, Falcons fans, to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and on today's show, we're going to talk some major Falcons rumors. Some players that might be returning after the bye week, which would be very, very good news for the Atlanta Falcons. And then, of course, Raheem Morris sounded off a little bit on Zac Robinson potentially leaving for the Oklahoma State head coaching job. We're going to talk about all of it. But as we get into the bye week, make sure that you stay up to date with every single video that we've got. If you want to become a smarter Atlanta Falcons fan, I have got you covered with the latest news, rumors, just like this video, watch parties, you name it, I got it. Hit that sub button before we get into week 6. Let's talk about the very first Falcons rumor. Multiple Falcons coming back after the bye. You can absolutely bet on it, bet on it. It's my little Troy Bolton impression. I apologize for going High School Musical on you. But here's what I need to tell you about these multiple Falcons coming back after the bye. I didn't even realize that we were almost at that point where short-term IR players could be returning, which is foolish of me because I should know that. That's my job. But I've been so focused on making sure I deliver you everything about the Dirty Birds that I've kind of forgotten about the guys that we placed on IR months ago. So here's what Sports Illustrated for the Falcons had to say about some players that are returning or could potentially return. Players who were placed on the injured reserve before the season with a designation to return are eligible to return to the team after missing 4 games. Such players include linebacker Troy Andersen, edge Bralen Trice, defensive tackle Taquan Graham, and offensive tackle Storm Norton. It's a minimum of 4 games, so the players can remain on IR if they so choose. But when they're ready, the Falcons can activate a 21-day practice window. This gives the team 3 weeks to evaluate the player to see if they're ready to return to the 53-man active roster and take someone else's spot. And I'm not going to lie to you. Out of all the players on this list, there's only one player that I'm very much looking forward to getting back on the active 53. The others would be gravy. Bralen Trice would be gravy if he could get himself onto the field at some point. Same with Troy Andersen. And Taquan Graham would be a nice rotational depth piece on the defensive line. Storm Norton, though, is the one player that I believe can make an immediate impact on this Falcons offensive line. If you remember, he's kind of a swing offensive lineman. He can play a little bit of tackle. He can play a little bit of guard. He can kind of do it all. And I know that the Falcons could use him, especially at that right tackle position. Shout out to Elijah Wilkinson, who has held his own. He definitely has. I wouldn't say he's been fantastic. I wouldn't say he's been awful. It's been kind of up and down for this Atlanta Falcons offensive line. In pass protection, they've been very good. Run blocking's been hit or miss. But that's where Storm Norton can absolutely make his biggest difference and his presence felt. He will be massive for the Dirty Birds in run blocking. Did you know in 2024, he had a run blocking grade of 67.1 according to PFF? In case you're not familiar, if you're above about a 62 or a 63, that's considered a good grade. If you're in the 70s, that's really good. If you're in the 80s and 90s, that's elite. So a 67.1 run blocking grade for the entirety of the season is no small feat. It's very, very good. Very, very good. So to get a player back like Storm Norton would be massive. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need him back against the Buffalo Bills. But if you could activate that 3-week practice window during the bye week, that gives you an extra week of basically, hey, let's just ramp it up and see what he's got. Which leads me to believe that this bye week for the Dirty Birds is even more important than ever. I'm saying it's like an 8.5. I kind of love the early bye. Excuse me, I apologize. I was holding that in for a long time. I think it's like an 8.5. I'm a big fan of early buys. I don't like late buys whatsoever. But if you think that it's as important as I do, or if you think it's less important, let me know what you think on a scale of 1 to 10 down in the comment section down below. Zac Robinson, I'm sure one of the reasons that you've clicked into this video. Is he leaving for the Oklahoma State job? Is it heating up? I call it a mild simmer. And I'll tell you why I call that a mild simmer. Because Raheem Morris took to the press conference. They asked him directly about Zac Robinson taking this position. And he had some very interesting things to say. Not good, but not bad either. It was just kind of weird. I'm going to tell you what he said coming up in just a second. Before I do that, I got to tell you about my friends over at PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. PrizePicks, by the way, is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you could pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. I know that the Falcons play the Buffalo Bills coming up very soon. So if you wanted to pick Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns in the same lineup, you absolutely could, but only on PrizePicks. How does it work? You pick your player, you pick your stat projection, you take the more or the less, and you watch your winnings multiply. You can win up to 2,000 times your money this football season on PrizePicks. Just download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. So Raheem Morris was asked about Zac Robinson taking this potential new job. And usually, if you're a head coach who, let's be honest, is probably a little bit better at the mic. I've never been a huge fan of Raheem Morris's press conference skills. Usually you would say something along the lines of like, we're not focused on that. We're focused on getting healthy for the bye and then focused on the Buffalo Bills. You'd give the very stereotypical presidential answer. But Raheem Morris didn't do that. Here's what he said specifically. I don't know if he's been contacted by anybody from Oklahoma State. But we've heard the rumors, maybe from Falcons today, and that's great for him. You want people to want our people. That's something that is awesome for him and his family. We embrace those distractions. I don't know that I embrace distractions, Raheem. I think I'm focused on my team winning, which leads me to believe, and this is just my opinion, that if your head coach is talking about your offensive coordinator potentially leaving, the rumor definitely has some validity to it, which means it's probably been discussed amongst inner circles in that coaching staff. Now, I know there were a lot of Dirty Birds fans that were kind of like, to not coin our president, Donald J. Trump, but Moose, you're absolutely wrong for thinking that Zac Robinson's going to leave. You're frankly an idiot. And then I would say to you, well, no, this didn't just come out of left field, right? Multiple sources said that Zac Robinson would be a great candidate for this Oklahoma State head coaching job. And then somebody challenged me a little bit further on it, and they said, well, how do you know that? Like, outside of their word, what else do you trust? Well, this is from one Vegas betting site that kind of like bets on everything sports related. They actually have odds for the next Oklahoma State head coach. Number 1 is G.J. Kine or something like that. I've never heard of this guy. From Texas State. His odds are 3-1 to land the job. Right after him is Zac Robinson at 4-1. So it's not like I'm just blowing smoke up your ass. This is a legitimate rumor with legitimate legs. And we all know that Zac Robinson played his college football as the quarterback for the Oklahoma State Cowboys under Mike Gundy, who spent 20 years there. So I can assume they'd want someone that has that relationship with Gundy, that understands the legacy, that is a legend himself in Stillwater, which is where Oklahoma State is located. So that's part of it. The other part of it is I'm still not fully in on Zac Robinson. I know he had a good game plan. I gave him credit for that. But there's way too much inconsistency. His play calling is too predictable. I just don't know that he's the right fit for the Dirty Birds. And I'm going to sit on that hill until I see more improvement. I need to see week by week improvement. Not just 1 week, not just 2 weeks. If by week 9, Zac Robinson fully turns it around and this Atlanta Falcons offense is humming on all cylinders, then fine, I'll eat crow. But I'm not ready to do that quite yet. I'm still at the point where I think Zac Robinson is not the right guy for this job. Let's go to our final rumor. This one, we're going to end on a positive note. We got to talk positivity, right? Bijan Robinson. Could he be an early MVP candidate? This one, in my opinion, is heating up. This is gaining some serious legs. And the reason I say that is because every single morning that I come in, I like to do a little deep dive on one specific player for the Dirty Birds. Mostly it's been around Zac Robinson, who is our offensive coordinator, and I've been trying to prove why he's not the right guy for the job. But every so often, something will come across your desk where you're like, man, I got to explore that more in detail. And Bijan came across my desk today, giggity. And I'm not going to lie to you. The numbers, they're really good. And if he finds the end zone just a little bit more, I think he's going to run away with it. At least at this point. Did you know, out of every other player in the NFL, Bijan sits right here. In rush yards, he's fifth out of every single player in the NFL. In scrimmage yards, 584, he's first in the NFL. And in scrimmage yards per game, obviously there's a direct correlation, 146 scrimmage yards per game. That's first in the NFL. And like I said, if you find the end zone a little bit more, that's going to be where most of the votes will start to swing in your favor. And the reason I say that this is not entirely a Bijan problem is because the Falcons have been dreadful in the red zone. I looked at their red zone efficiency. This number directly indicates from every time the Falcons get into the red zone in 2025, what is the percentage that they score a touchdown? So this isn't a field goal and touchdown statistic. This is how many times do you find the end zone when you hit the red zone in 2025. Through 4 weeks, they are a 46.1%, which is 26th in the NFL. So less than half of the time that they find themselves inside the opponent's 20, they can't find their way into the end zone. That is not nearly good enough. Which is why I also say that for what Bijan has already shown you, if he just finds the end zone 1, 2, 3, 4 more times, you're going to see that skyrocket in odds to win the MVP. If you can find more success running the football down there in the end zone, or the red zone, Bijan will get the MVP nods. And I think that would be tremendous. The talent is certainly there. The productivity in terms of between the sticks is there. You just got to find the scoring. And if you can find the scoring, my friends, you could be looking at the 2025 NFL MVP, Bijan Robinson. That would feed families. All right, before we take off on out of here, I do have to quickly remind you that we are entering into the bye week for the Dirty Birds, a week to get your mind right, a week to get your body right. If we can get to 42,000 subscribers before week 6, that would be the ultimate testament to your fandom and your commitment to this Dirty Birds team. That's going to do it for us on today's episode, Falcons fans. A reminder to like the video, rise up, and be cool.